Hello there. Today we are going to do what I think is one of the easiest hat patterns you can find. Okay? And what you need a hook to go with the size yarn that you like, and you need a tape measure, and you need your yarn. And you will need a yarn needle at the end to sew the top shut, but when we can do that when we get to the end. Let's start by making this slip knot, and we are going to chain whatever number of chains it takes with whatever yarn you're using to get to 9 inches at the least. This is for an adult hat, okay? And the reason we're doing 9 inches because most hat patterns, the hat length that is suggested for adults is 7 inches, 7, 8, thereabouts, depending on how much of a loop over you want, or if you want to bend the rim of the hat. So in really cold areas, and like me, if you're like me, I get cold very easily. So I like a very thick wrap over my ears, like the loop that goes, you flip over the ears. I like it to be thick. I like it to be 2 to 3 inches long. Okay, let's see if we've gotten to, oh, I'm so fast. I think we've gotten past the 9 inches. Okay, for me, I'm going to leave it at the 12 where it is, okay? But you don't go below 9. It's 9, and you can take it up to 12, 13, 14, depending on how much of a wrap over. And this one, I'm going to use the half DC stitch. And if you don't know how to do the half DC, let me show you. It's loop over, yarn over once. And now we're going to go in the third stitch from the hook. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go through, pick up 1. We have 3 loops. We're going to pull through all 3. And we're going to put 1/2 DC in all the stitches across. And if you can do this, you can make the hat. Believe it or not, that's all you're going to be doing. This first row is placed a little different. 1/2 DC in each stitch across, and meet me at the end and I'll show you the second row, which is going to be all you're going to repeat to the end of your hat. And let's go do it. When you've gotten to the very end, you see there's one left, and then there's slip knot. Slip knot, we're not putting any stitch in. We're just going to put that last stitch in that first chain. Now, importantly, this little technique that I'm going to show you now is what you're going to need to keep your edges nice and straight. I turn, then chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch. It is just there to keep your edges nice and straight. Now we're going to put that half double crochet in that first stitch. Half double crochet. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, I've told you that this is just my personal thing to keep my edges straight. Even though this row that we're going to make now, and all the other rows after this, the stitches are going to be worked in the back loop only. My first stitch and my last stitch of the row, I like to put through both loops. So I just put through both loops in my first half double crochet. The others are going to go in the back loop only. Back loop only, half DC. Yarn over once, through the back loop, yarn over, you have 3, pull through all 3. Yarn over, through the back loop, pull through all 3. You're seeing that? Back loop. And do that all the way across. Meet you at the end. And we're at the end of the row. And we go. And this last set here is where I'm going to go through both loops instead of one to keep my edge nice and straight. Now remember I told you how to turn? Turn, chain one. It doesn't count as a stitch. For 1/2 DC into the first stitch, pull through. And then repeat row 2. 1/2 DC in the back loop only, all the way across, except for that last stitch that we put through both loops. You don't have to. You could do back loop all the way across. It would still be good. But from my experience, my personal preference, everybody is different. I like to put that first and last stitch, the edges, in through both loops. I think it keeps it nice together, and there I am getting my straight edge. And those will be what's forming the edge of the rim of your hat. So, hey, no problem if it's a little tighter, right? 1/2 DC all the way across. And guys, you're going to do this repeat all the way until this piece from top all the way up measures 17 inches. Remember, this is an adult hat, okay? So we are going to repeat what you're doing here, back and forth, back loop, all the way until it measures 17 inches. Take your time. Don't rush yourself. Sometimes it may take a little more time, a day, 2 days, depending on how much, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on how much time you have to dedicate to your crochet. But go ahead, guys. I'll meet you later when it's 17 inches long. So I've gone ahead and I completed 17 inches from top to bottom. I hope you're here with me, showing you my 17 inches just from top to bottom. And mine was originally about 12 inches across, right? So now make sure that when you're finishing this last row, it is opposite to the row where we started, right? Opposite the row, opposite the ends. So you want the piece where you initially start, you want it to be like on the left, and then the piece where your last row to get to your 17 inches, or even if it's a 17¼ inches, unstretched. Not stretched out, but unstretched, still soft and cushy, right? And you want that row to end there. Then what I'm going to do, we're just going to fold them to each other. And this is the reason we want them on opposite sides, because we want to keep all the finished strings on one side. And we're going to join these two ends working back to over here. So see, it doesn't matter which side you fold on, they're both the same. Just fold to meet. And then what we're going to do now, we're going to join them, and this is where we're going to use our slip stitch. Now different people join with different methods. I use a slip stitch with my hook. I think I get a nice strong seam that I can believe in. Some people cut the thread and then use the yarn needle and sew across. Whichever way works for you, that's fine. So I completed this row and I did my chain one, and I'm going to go through both loops like I was going to make both loops on the beginning, and then I'm going to take that beginning stitch on the other side and I'm going through that as well. And now I'm going to grab one and I'm going to pull it through, and I'm just going to make a slip knot, pull it right through. So when I'm doing it, I take the two from the side that I worked on, like a full stitch, 2 loops, and you take 1 loop from the other side through, and that's how I join. Go through 2 stitches on this side, the next one loop on the other side, which is really the back end of the chain, the beginning chain. Right? So you're just taking the back loop of the back end of the beginning chain that we had used, and we're going to go right through both of them, both pieces, both ends. So I go through 2 here, and I go through the one on the back. Well, I think that was a single crochet. I should have slip stitch. 2, all the way across. Grab this and just pull through. Go over, pull through. And you do this all the way to the end, matching up stitch for stitch. And we're putting one in every single stitch. 1 slip stitch through under these 2, through the back of that one. And we're joining. Okay, do this to the end. And I'm at the very last edge. And I push through 2, and just where we had started with that slip knot, we're going to go through and make our last slip stitch. And what I like to do now is I'm going to hold it up like this, chain 1, and then I'm going to cut this yarn. And I'm going to cut this yarn very long because this is what we're going to use to join the top of this hat. So now is when we need the rest of our tools. We're going to get our yarn needle, and we're going to string this yarn through it, and then we're going to sew the top together. So this is what we have. Okay, so I've gotten my plastic yarn needle, pardon me, and I'm just going to string the yarn through it, and I'm ready to go. Move that hook. And this is what you should have. You should have what looks like a tube, right? This is what you should have right now. And the same side that we formed this seam on, this is my seam where I joined. And you see how it almost looks like it's the same thing there. And this is the wrong side. So, I mean, I could literally wear this hat on the wrong side anyway. Anyway, we have strung up our yarn on this, and just move that tail out of the way, and we're going to go through. I usually go through every one of these, what I call the pits. So you see how you have the ridges, you have the high ones, and then you have the ones that are indented. I am going to go through all of the indented ones. All right, so I'm skipping the ridge, but I'm going through through the indented, and I turn. I skip the ridge, and I go. I've done that one already. Skip the ridge, and just find a space near to the top to put the needle through. Sometimes you'll have it very clearly. Skip the ridge, down through the valley. 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 Now this is just my technique to make sure I'm getting it nice and even. But you could choose to go through both the ridge and the valley, right? It's just your take on it. What we're trying to do is close this top. And the more even you place the stitches, the nicer when you pull it together, it's nice and even, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't make or break your pattern if you go the order you choose to put in the yarn, okay? We're doing that all around until, hey, look, we're right back where we started, right? And then what we're going to do, after I've looped that, I'm just going to pull on it. Yes, guys, just pull on it. Pull on it until it's closed. And sometimes you have this little hole left. Now that is where I'm going to use the yarn needle to seam up, you know, just make a few stitches across, pull on that, few stitches in several different directions here, pull on that, up and down across that hole. Just make a few stitches across, guys. I just do it doesn't matter how many number of times, I just do it to close this loop. Oh, my yarn came out of my needle. That happens sometimes. That's that. And you just do it a few times to get a nice little, you know, see, mine is shut, really. And I just do that just to form the basis for the knot. And then you can knot it off now, okay? So for me, after making this loop, I come from around that side and I pull on it, and that's one knot. And I'll do it a few more times just at the top through random stitches, guys. Random stitches to make my knots. I'm making another knot. There we go. And if you wanted to, you could just use this yarn needle and go down a few of these stitches, like lose some of this yarn down there. I like to do that, and then back up through these loops. You're just hiding off the yarn, right? And I've done that, and now I feel confident that if I cut this after washing and all of that, it won't become undone. And then we have the beginning string to loose off, so I just load up that piece on here in the hook, in the needle, and I'm just going to come down under these stitches, or any stitch, just find some to lose a thread under. This slip knot should not become undone. I mean, it's tight and everything already, we pulled on it, but it doesn't hurt to lose what we call lose off the edges, hide them, sew them in. People call it by different names. Go back up, make some loops. Right? If you do it a couple of times, you just feel a little bit more confident that, you know, things won't become undone. And it's nice and neat. It gives your hat a nice finishing touch. Okay? And I'm just going to cut this one here too. Good. Hey, look what we have. A hat. But this is the wrong side. Now we're ready to flip it over. Yes. Look, guys, you have a hat. And because I made mine, this is the reason I like to go longer now. Remember I was telling you at the beginning about the brim? So now you can fold this up to fit over your ear, right? And that is why I did mine a little longer than 9 inches. 8 to 9 inches would be just right to go for your ears. But if you make it a few inches longer, 12, 13, then this flap can be very thick. And guys, here you go. So guys, I hope you liked it. And you can go ahead now, look at that. Guys, your friends are not ever gonna believe you made this, right? Especially if they don't know you as a crochet person and you're just starting out. Look at that, guys. 2 simple stitches, right? Chain, half DC, half DC, half DC. Look at that. And you have a hat. You can make pom-poms and put on the top, things like those, or you can buy pom-poms on Amazon and just put it on, and you can take them off as you need them. But this is just good to go. Subscribe, like, and I hope you do make this hat pattern. Okay? Thank you guys. Bye-bye.